How's it going, everybody? I'm the BTC Reaper, and my goal on this channel is to teach you how to reap the rewards of trading with the price that's going up or down. Ethereum inflation, ETH supply has grown by 47 million in 30 days. Ethereum's historic transition from proof of work to proof of stake reduced the ETH issuance rate by 90%, so everyone thought it would appreciate in value thereafter, but that does not seem to be the case. The last 30 days, we've increased by $47 million worth of Ethereum, or 30,000 Ethereum. A sharp uptick in the amount of ETH in circulation is mostly thanks to the equally stark decline in the transaction flow on Ethereum network, which is fewer NFT trades and much less DeFi activity. As of late, ETH gas fees has dropped remarkably low, which is good for the average ETH user, but this also means that less ETH is being burned, so ETH is going up in supply. Most devs aren't worried though because it's below the initial supply and max supply, so they're not very concerned because everything else is seeing inflation. Crypto has no innate or inherent value, the SEC argues in the court case. Well, that's not quite true. In response to a motion to throw out the agency's lawsuit filed over the summer, the SEC petitioned a judge to reject Coinbase's stance that cryptocurrency trading does not count as an investment contract between parties. It justified its position by repeating its position that federal securities laws are designed to be interpreted flexibly through the Howey test, which they failed to apply on XRP. Under Howey, the SEC has argued for decades that investments ranging from whiskey caskets to chinchilla farms can be regulated as investment contracts. However, it says that many cryptocurrencies differ only because they have no innate or inherent value on their own, whereas the tokens cited in their lawsuit meet the criteria under the Howey test, so all the ones they're trying to sue, they say, do have value. So good for XRP or algo holders or anyone else that's being sued. The SEC's arguments today would mean that everything from Pokemon cards to stamps to Strife bracelets are also securities. Ruwal wrote, as Newark Congressman Rep. Torres also made clear last week that it's simply not the law, nor should it be. And then everything else just criticizes the SEC for failing to apply the Howey test on XRP and lost our case. So we finally have a working model, so this is your last call to hit that Discord link up above or in the description down below. Join the disc over on the daily for the Dixie. We are trying to get a bounce up from here, but if you look on the lower time frames, we do have a gap that we could fill. We have a gap that we made up above this resistance area for that 300 EMA. Our green EMA is crossing above, so that is bullish for us, but I would keep an eye on that as that is laggy. RSI is going kind of flat here, but it is starting to scoop up as our stochastic's falling, but it does want to gain some strength. If the stochastic can make a rebound, that RSI will continue forward. That momentum is overall pushing out, the money flow is running up, and the VWAP is pushing into the bearish territory, pushing away from the neutral. Over on our total, we are starting to push away from this support level, resistance area. We are pushing below our EMA level, kind of hanging on our higher EMAs that are below us. If we do break all of these, we could break this Fibonacci zone and see lower price action. RSI is curling away, stochastic has gone pretty flat, our momentum's overall pushing out, it does have a red dot, so we could see continual price action to the downside from here. Our VWAP is in the bearish territory and the money flow is starting to push lower. So we do have potential for a bearish trend to start here. If tomorrow's candle is a strong red candle that breaks this support level, then we would likely see lower price action and finally see these price targets play out. Over on Bitcoin dominance, we're not quite going anywhere, we're still pretty flat. Stochastic's starting to bend, RSI is starting to lose some strength, our momentum's starting to push away, and our VWAP is getting close to that neutral and it is in danger of breaking to the bearish side. Our money flow is trying to push pretty decently, so that is hopeful for us. If our money flow can continue forward, then we will likely see continued price action up. However, if this VWAP breaks bearish and this round does not successfully complete, and the money flow tapers out, we'll likely get a push to the downside. Over on futures, we are trying to still continue with the double bottom possibility, so that is good for our bullish scenario, but we are coming up to resistance. Keep that in mind. If we reject this resistance, that would invalidate this possibility finally, and then we will likely see price action to the downside. Our stochastic is overall getting bearish divergences as it starts to push down, and our price action tries to maintain bullish price action forward. RSI is starting to lose strength as our stochastic is starting to lose strength as well, and the momentum is in danger of rolling away as our VWAP wants to break to the bearish side. Our money flow is meeting some support at this negative 23 zone, but is maintaining strong bearish action. If this VWAP falls to the bearish territory while this money flow is still way down here, we'll likely see a pretty decent move to the downside. Over on Bitcoin, we are starting to kind of reject away from the top of our symmetrical triangle here. Our stochastic is trying to push forward, but we still have bearish divergences. RSI wants to come out. Our VWAP wants to roll over past this neutral, and it could fall and start a bearish trend. If that happens, we will likely see the symmetrical triangle play to the downside. Our money flow is starting to pick up momentum to the downside as we're slightly getting lower lows and lower highs, so I would keep an eye on that as we are forming a bearish trend here. Over on the 4 hour, you can see we tried to break out. We are trying to break out again, but we weren't too successful. Our RSI is going pretty flat. Stochastic's well in the bearish territory. We do have a bullish cross that wants to rebound us. So if this cross can sustain and push forward, our RSI will push up, and we could see a bit of a push to the upside from here. However, if the stochastic rounds away and other indicators start to go bearish, we'll likely see lower price action. Momentum is starting to push out, our money flow is weakening here, and our VWAP is struggling to get past this neutral. It's starting to round away. If that VWAP pushes away from the neutral here, we could see bearish action start to resume. We would have a bearish trend either way, as we have lower lows and lower highs currently. Over on the 2 hour, we have a double manipulation X that wants to bring us down, so I would watch out. If we don't get a strong green candle after this green candle, it is very likely we could see a corrective move from this green candle to push us down. Our RSI is starting to kind of taper off. Stochastic does want to ramp up, so keep a close eye on that. If it sustains this bullish action, we could see the RSI start to pick back up. Our money flow is starting to round away, but it is in the bullish territory. It's hanging up around this 5, so if it doesn't break above this 5 and hold, then we'll likely start to see it fade away and go to the bearish territory. Our VWAP is struggling to maintain bullish strength and is starting to head toward the neutral and wants to break bearish, so our momentum could start to push away and this green dot may get invalidated. Over on the 1 hour, you can see we're just zigzagging along. Stochastic is trying to push up, but it's starting to round out. RSI is overall trending out. Our VWAP's overall pushing away. Our money flow is starting to trend away, and our momentum does want to carry up. If this VWAP continues this bounce it has right here, that would be good for us. However, if we see the VWAP fall away, we will likely see everything else start to push under and a drop to the downside. Over on graph for the daily, we are getting a little bit of a push to our support level. We did bounce after trying to break it. RSI is overall pushing out. Our stochastic does want to make a bullish cross, and the money flow is pushing into the bearish territory. We are being suppressed by this EMA level here. That is our lower EMA. Our VWAP is starting to push away, and our momentum is pushing out. So overall, we have more bearish action than we do bullish. Over on the 4 hour, we have a possible double bottom that could be showing here. This could be our first dip, second dip, and we could push up. We would need to break this EMA level here and see the green lower EMA break above it and sustain. Otherwise, we could fall to the bearish side, break the support level, and see lower price action. Our stochastic does want to push up, but our RSI is starting to go pretty flat, even though we do have as much strength as we can have. Our VWAP does want to push forward, and our money flow is trying to recover, so that is good for any bullish scenario. But if we get a lower high here, we would maintain a bearish trend. The momentum is trying to push up with a green dot, as our VWAP is in the bullish territory and getting higher highs, so that is good for our VWAP. Over on the 2 hour here, we do have a pretty decent bounce, but we could just be doing like an inverse Bart Simpson, where we keep hitting all these points and then we bounce back up. That would be good for us. We would test these ranges back here. Our stochastic is running up, RSI is trying to push up, our VWAP is maintaining bullish strength, momentum is pushing up, it wants to cross bullish, and our money flow is on a little bit of a bullish trend. So the 2 hour is looking pretty decent. If this continues, we could see a push to the upside. Over on the 1 hour, you'll see we have a inverted wick here. Really hard to see the body. That shows buyers tried to push us up to this EMA level up here, but we were not able to break that level or hold in that zone. So the sellers ultimately won. The buyers are trying to break this third upper EMA that we have here with the yellow one, but if we're not able to sustain this, we would likely see a price action drop us to the downside, and this could be like a little mini double top. We have a little gap here too. That's like the gap that you have on the Dixie that I was warning about. All these gaps tend to fill. If you watch Anchor that we've done over the last couple months, we've seen many gaps and there's been many trading opportunities there. Our money flow is trying to push to the bullish side, VWAP's trying to come to the bearish side, and our momentum is starting to push under as our VWAP's losing strength with lower highs. If our VWAP breaks into the bearish territory and gets a lower low, then we would start a bearish trend, and if that money flow continues to taper back down, it's likely going to reject away from neutral and push us under. Over on Anchor for the daily, we are rejecting around the top a resistance of our flag. So if we do not break out here, we are likely going to start to curl away. Our money flow is in the bullish territory, but it's struggling to get above this 7 zone. If it does not get above this zone and hold, we will likely get a push to the downside. Our VWAP is getting lower highs and starting to taper out, as well as our momentum. So our momentum has bearish divergence. Stochastic has bearish divergence. Our stochastic is running up, that wants to push our RSI up, but overall we still have that bearish divergence that could end up bringing us down. Over on the 4 hour, we are trying to make a push to the upside. Stochastic wants to make a bullish cross up, RSI is starting to taper away, and the momentum is trying to carry some strength here, but we're starting to get slightly lower highs on our solid wave. Our little lighter wave is getting a higher high, but not our solid wave. So that could be a bit of a divergence forming. Money flow is starting to curl away and our VWAP is starting to push down, so we could see some corrective action to the downside from here. Over on the 2 hour, we are pushing pretty decent. We did try to fill, don't believe that gap's here, believe it's on the 1 hour. But we have come back to a gapped area. Our stochastic is starting to curl away. Our RSI wants to push up. Our money flow is trying to get some bullish action. Our VWAP is starting to curl away. And the stochastic it did get a bullish cross or a bullish divergence that pushed us forward. That bullish divergence does look like it did play out. We are starting to round with the stochastic. We have a gap to the downside. It's kind of hard to see with that yellow EMA there, but it's right where that line is. Momentum is starting to taper off as our VWAP is pushing lower, so we do have signs that we may start a push to the downside. If we continue with green candles, that would be good for us. We could push, fill that gap later, but I would just be warned. Stochastic is going to push to the downside as price tries to continue forward, so we do have bearish divergence forming on the 1 hour that could lead into the higher time frames and push us down. Our money flow is peeking into the bearish territory, and it is in a spot where we could see a bit of a push to the downside and start a bearish trend from here. Our momentum does want to push to the bullish side with a green dot, as our VWAP is trying to bounce off that neutral, but if that bounce doesn't sustain, we'll likely see it roll over and see a pretty dramatic push to the downside. Over on XRP, you can see we're rejecting our point of control here. Our green lower EMA level is starting to push under. We are bouncing above this higher EMA that is below us. So if we do find support with this EMA level, we could make a bounce to the upper level, try to retest this point of control, and try to break this resistance up here. However, if we break this zone, it is likely we'll come around to the bottom of our support where our flag is and our higher EMA and break those zones. Stochastic is starting to push out, momentum starting to push to the downside, our VWAP is starting to reject away, our RSI is starting to reject away, our VWAP is rejecting away as well, and our momentum and money flow are again pushes to the downside as our VWAP falls. So overall, more of our indicators are bearish than bullish here, and we are seeing divergences start to highlight that could end up playing out and dragging us down. Over on the 4 hour, we are trying to bounce off some EMA levels here. We could end up just making a descending triangle though, that could break us to the downside, so I would watch out for that. It could break us pretty close to this previous range that we did have. Our RSI is starting to push away, Stochastic's overall starting to push out. It does want to make a bullish cross and push back up, but just be warned it could roll over again and we could just see the stair-step pattern. Our money flow is overall in a bearish trend, and our VWAP is struggling to cross that neutral and struggling to get a bullish push up. If that VWAP starts to reject away, we'll get a lower high and confirm a bearish trend. Our momentum is pushing out and doesn't really have much hope to push forward if that VWAP starts to roll over here. Over on the 2 hour, very similar patterns. For candles, RSI is overall pushing out. Stochastic's overall pushing away. We are rejecting a bullish cross. Our money flow is starting to push out, and our VWAP is testing that neutral and wants to break bearish. If that VWAP gets a lower low here, we would confirm a bearish trend, and we would see lower price action from that. That lower price action would likely be that retest that I've been mentioning. Over on the 1 hour, you can see we are kind of flagging here, so we could have a flag that drops us to the downside in our micro pattern here. Stochastic is starting to round out, RSI does want to push forward, and our money flow is trying to break toward that neutral. If the money flow can gain bullish action, we will see some price action up, get a little bounce, and that could be bullish for us. VWAP is trying to break to the bullish side as well. Our momentum is overall pushing up, but we do have a red dot that wants to push us away. But with that VWAP trying to cross neutral, we could see a push to the upside and invalidate that if that does happen. However, if our VWAP rolls away here, we would confirm a bearish trend. Over on the daily, we are trying to break our pattern here. We want to continue forward, but we are still within an up channel, so that up channel could end up bringing us down overall. We could try to test toward this point of control and overall see a rejection from that point. We are making a push off the value area low, so that is good for a continued move to the upside. Stochastic does want to get a bullish cross, our momentum wants to push forward, and our VWAP and money flow want to go to the bullish side. If the VWAP and money flow continue to push forward here, we will get a push up and see higher price action. RSI is trying to push forward with that Stochastic trying to rebound. Over on the 4 hour, we have a tweezer top that could be forming here that wants to break us down. Our Stochastic is getting a bearish cross and wants to push out, and our RSI is starting to take a dip here. Our VWAP is starting to push under and wants to break to the bearish side as well, bringing our momentum down. Our money flow is struggling to maintain bullish strength above this 4, and we could get a push to the bearish side and see a drop out from here. So this may be a short-lived hype pump. Over on the 2 hour, you can see we do have a little bit of a gap down, so we could make a bounce, fill this gap, and possibly see a rejection there. Stochastic is overall coming out, RSI is pushing away, momentum is getting a red dot and starting to roll away, and our VWAP is pushing into the bearish territory. Our money flow is starting to push away, so we are seeing more bearish sell-off than we have any kind of bullish action. If the money flow and VWAP continue down, we're likely going to get a push through the support level and see lower price action. Over on the 1 hour, you can see we're starting to kind of round away. It's very hard to see as these candles are pretty small. Stochastic is starting to push out, RSI is starting to push out, our momentum starting to push away with a double red dot, and our money flow is starting to push away as well. The VWAP is pushing into the bearish territory pretty decently, dragging everything down. If the money flow crosses neutral with this VWAP in the bearish territory, we could see a leg to the downside and retrace today's gains. Thank you for watching tonight's video. I hope you have a wonderful night.